Okay, so today we're going to talk about tree diagrams and how to make a tree diagram and then how to use a tree diagram. So above I have this problem. A university fails 20% of its students in the final. After the final, he polls the students and asks how many of them studied for more than 3 hours. Of those that passed the final, 72% said they studied for it. Of those who failed, 31% said they studied for it. And we're supposed to make a tree diagram. So I'm going to start my tree diagram with passed and failed. So 20% failed, which means that 80% passed. Okay, so you always want each part of your tree to add up to 100%. Okay, then our branch from here, it says if we passed, 72% studied. So this was 72, which means that 28% didn't study but passed. And over down here, it said 31% studied, which means an overwhelming 69% didn't study. Okay, so that's kind of how the tree diagram goes. Now we can figure some things out. We can figure out the probability that you passed and you studied. The probability that you passed and you studied would be this 80% times the 72%. So if I took my calculator, so the probability that I passed and I studied would be about 58%. Then we could find the probability that we passed that we studied given that we passed. So let's change this up a little bit. So the probability that we studied given that we passed would be this 72% over here. Because that showed this is everyone that passed, 72% is right there. So there's a lot of things that we can kind of see and figure out from this tree diagram after we've drawn it. We could do the probability that we failed. What's the probability that you fail is 20%. And then we could do the probability that you failed and studied, which would be this right here. Which is about 6%. So again, lots of things that we could figure out from this tree. The main thing is you kind of set up the tree, you make sure at each of your tree branches that the tree branches are adding up to be 100%. If they're not, then you need to go back and kind of fix the tree branches.